Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Andrew Yang's perfect cabinet. Today we're going to talk about two specific secretaries, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs and the Secretary specifically of Homeland Security. So the Secretary of Veterans Affairs and the Secretary of Homeland Security. The reason why we're doing two today is I think that these two secretary positions have the same resolution, right? Now, what is that resolution? Well, the person that I would pick to fill Secretary of Veterans Affairs and Secretary of Homeland Security is no one. I think that these two positions should be eliminated. All right. So why on earth would we eliminate Veterans Affairs? Well, there's one reason in my opinion, and that is it's not scalable. The Secretary of Veterans Affairs, I don't think should have been established, and the reason why is it's truly not scalable. All right, so one, let's get the obvious out of the way here. Should veterans get everything that they need as American citizens? The answer is absolutely yes, right? So the reality is, who owns responsibility for U.S. veterans? Every single secretary, attorney general, all of them across from transportation, housing, health and human services, defense, right? Everybody. So the reality is, veterans are U.S. American citizens, and if they have a need, that need should be met by. If they have a distinct need, that need should be met by their government, and they should not be denied anything that a U.S. citizen should have. Okay, so in my opinion, when they made this Veterans Affairs, the reason why I don't think it's scalable is you have this Secretary of Veterans Affairs, right, saying we're gonna deal with veterans in a different way, right? Well, one, I think that removes responsibility from every, to some extent, not fully, but it helps remove responsibility from all those other secretaries that owe veterans exactly what's needed based on their being American citizens, right? Additionally to that, I have an issue with, okay, we have a Secretary of Veterans Affairs. Do we have a Secretary of First Responders? We do not. Is that because first responders aren't worthy of that? No, that's not the reason, clearly, right? As soon as you get into, first responders, should doctors be excluded, right? Teachers, should be their special secretary just for retired teachers? No, right? It doesn't make any sense. So the reality is, every single department, every secretary within the cabinet, okay, owes a duty to every American citizen, right? And by making a grouping that serves a specific grouping of Americans, it removes, in my opinion, a portion of responsibility from every single one of those other secretaries that should be serving every American citizen. So I really think it's a scalability issue. As soon as you go down this road, who's not worthy to have somebody looking out for them? And the reality is, the answer is no one. Every U.S. American citizen should be being looked out for by every single secretary. There should not be a secretary in charge of a specific grouping of Americans, right? Because I truly think it's completely unscalable, and it doesn't stop, right? You would be opening up secretaries across every demographic, and the other issue is, I don't think that that the Veteran Affairs, by removing that responsibility, even at any level, right, even if it's just a perceived removal of responsibility, it doesn't serve those people. So in my opinion, in order to get veterans to be treated like U.S. citizens and given everything they need like a U.S. citizen, that responsibility should remain with every single secretary, and no one should have a bit of that responsibility removed. And I actually think by putting in a Secretary of Veteran Affairs, it removes that responsibility at some level from every single secretary. And it's the opposite of what you're trying to achieve, in my opinion. Okay, I know this is a controversial. Veterans, of course, they've served our nation. They deserve respect. I fully understand that. They absolutely deserve respect. Every American citizen deserves. Okay? All right. And they should get what they need, just like every single American citizen. All right. Let's talk about the Secretary of Homeland Security. Majorly, we should get rid of this. I believe the Secretary of Homeland Security was put into place completely in reaction to 9/11, and I believe the creation of this specific secretary role was fear-based. Right? It was a point-in-time reaction to a terrible thing that happened in America. But the reality is, I think it's just a really fundamentally bad idea. Right? So basically, you have so who's in charge of keeping our homeland safe, right? Well, there are a few secretaries that are more in charge of this than others. The Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of the Interior, the Secretary of Energy, and the Secretary of Transportation. They all have very specific roles to play in securing our homeland, and they need to be working very closely together, right? And by creating this odd Secretary of Homeland Security, right? What on earth do you think the defense is for? It's to keep our homeland state safe. It's completely it's completely duplicative, and the reality is, this is already covered by several other secretaries. So I think it's a really bad idea to have Homeland Security. And so in an Andrew Yang perfect cabinet, I would have no one serving as Secretary of Veterans Affairs. All veterans would get what they need through every single secretary of all the different groups. And if they were not getting what they needed, then for instance, if they weren't getting the education they need, the Secretary of Education should be held responsible, not the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, who really has virtually no ability to deliver those things anyway, right? Even if they weren't getting what they needed for retirement or other things like that. The Secretary of Defense is in charge of a massive amount of funds. It's incredible. What's the Secretary of Veterans Affairs got, right? It's a fundamentally bad structure, right? So in order for veterans to get everything they deserve, everything they need as U.S. citizens, that responsibility should remain with every single secretary of the different groupings. And then Secretary of Homeland Security, I truly believe that entire department was created as a reaction, and I think it was a fear-based reaction. I think we should get rid of it and return responsibility for keeping the homeland safe to the Department of Defense, and the Department of Defense should be very, very closely assisted by the Department of Interior, by the Secretary of Interior, by the Secretary of Energy, and the Secretary of Transportation. That is absolutely critical, right? And I think it's a really fundamentally a bad idea to make this duplicative department that really doesn't have any of the tools that are needed to actually do the job, right? And makes it very confusing on who is actually responsible to secure this homeland. All of that is my opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion. Let me know if you think I'm wrong. I'm more than willing to listen. Sometimes I know, like when I come at things from a principle basis, from a logical basis, right? Maybe I'm missing something here. I'm more than willing to listen. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.